welcoming Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia, Vice President of the YTB, Dean of ISTAC IIUM, and dignitaries. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now arise for the rendition of the national anthem. Negaraku representing Malaysia. Turkish National Anthem.
You got it.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
You got it.
To commence this event with blessings, we invite Ustaz Osman Nordin, Islamic Religious Officer at the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, to lead us in the dua.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good afternoon. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم إنا نسألك فواتح الخير وخواتمه وجوامعه وأوله وظاهره وباطنه والدرجات العلى من الجنة آمين اللهم إنا نسألك خير المسألة وخير الدعاء وخير النجاح وخير العمل وخير الثواب وخير الحياة وخير الممات. O Allah, we humbly ask you to make this supplication among the best of our prayers. Grant us success in all our actions and bless us with fruitful knowledge, noble character, and sincere efforts that bring benefits to ourselves, our families, and ummah. O Allah, we ask you to make our scales heavy with good deeds, strengthen us in patience and resilience, and grant us wisdom in our pursuits. Make us humble in our achievements, steadfast in our faith, compassionate towards others, and appreciative of the diversity among us. Inspire us with beneficial ideas, protect us from harm, and teach us what we do not know from your infinite wisdom. اللهم إنا نسألك خير ما آتيه وخير ما نفعل وخير ما نعمل وخير ما بطن وخير ما ظهر والدرجات العلى من الجنة آمين. Merciful Allah, we have dedicated ourselves to actions that uplift Islam and our Ummah. Please accept from us, accept our efforts, bless us with guidance, and lead all of us towards a path of truth, compassion, and excellence. O Allah, make this gathering fill with your mercy, and let our parting be under your protection. Grant us success in this life and the hereafter. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا ولا من يتبعنا شقيا ولا مطرودا ولا محروما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. His Excellency Emir Salim Yüksel, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia and member of the IIUM Board of Governors, Mr. Murad Kazandi, Vice President of the Presidency for Turks Abroad and Related Communities, Culture ve Turizm Bakanlığı Yurt Dışı Türkler ve Akraba Türkler Başkanlığı YTB, Honorable Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgut, Dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC IIUM, Your Excellencies, representatives from the Diplomatic Corps, editors of the book Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Qadi and Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Goksoy, distinguished panelists, guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, salam sejahtera, and a very good afternoon. Distinguished guests, welcome to the book launching ceremony of the studies on the relations between the Ottoman Empire and the Southeast Asia, published by the Presidency for Turks Abroad and Related Communities, YTB. We're gathered here today at the prestigious International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC IIUM, a beacon of intellectual pursuit and cultural dialogue. This publication is more than a scholarly achievement. It is a testament to the enduring ties that bind civilizations, as history is not merely a record of the past, but a guide to understanding the present and shaping the future. We extend our deepest gratitude and a tashakkur to the ambassadors, representatives, and dignitaries for joining us today. And now it is my pleasure to invite the Honorable Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgut, Dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, to deliver his welcoming address.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. His Excellency Emir Salim Yüksel, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia and member of the IIUM Board of Governors. Mr. Murad Kazandi, Vice President of the Presidency for Turks Abroad and Related Communities. Ambassador Razdan Jamil, Undersecretary, West Asia, Wisma Putra. Your Excellencies, representative from Diplomatic Corps. Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Qadi, Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Goksoy, editors of the book Studies on the Relations between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. Honorable discussant and guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. First of all, let me welcome you all to the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, IIUM. It's a great honor to have our guests from Turkey, all the way from Turkey to Malaysia here, to attend and participate in this event. I tell you that this is not the first event happening between ISTEC, IIUM, and the counterpart in Turkey. There are many events and programs and activities that have been taking place in this International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to have all the diplomatic corps here today, all the scholars, all the researchers and participants from different walks of life, and thank you for coming and supporting our event today. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, this event of the book launching on the relations between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia, to us at ISTEC here, comes in a series of activities and programs that we have done in the span of the last 3 years. There was an international conference took place here 2 years ago, and also there were lectures and professorial lectures in which we engaged many Turkish scholars to be here. So brothers and sisters, always ISTEC IIUM opens its doors for relations. One of the missions of the university, mission number 6, is to strengthen and enhance cultural and civilizational dialogue through all means, including cultural diplomacy and arts diplomacy, economic diplomacy, and all ways and means that helps bring people together, bring scholars together. And today we have with us scholars from Turkey and scholars from Malaysia looking at this issue or topic of the relations. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I hope and I wish you a very fruitful discussion and review of this book, and it's open for all our scholars, participants, to put their ideas, and I hope all the participants who are here and also in our YouTube channel, ISTEC TV channel, to benefit from this event. And once again, I would like to thank the organizers from Turkey, YTB, and also ISTEC IIUM for making this event a success and for bringing all these great people together here. May God bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Abdulaziz Birgut. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the screen for a special montage video from YTB.
Founded on April 6, 2010, the Presidency for Turks Abroad and Related Communities provides essential services for Turks living abroad, our kin and related communities, and international students receiving education in Turkey. YTB aims to strengthen the ties of the Turkish diaspora, which reaches approximately 7 million worldwide today, with the homeland Turkey. To ensure that our citizens abroad preserve their identity and culture and reach a strong economic, social, and cultural position in the countries they live in. From Balkans to Africa, from Caucasia to Europe, from Asia to the Middle East, YTB continues its activities with great determination towards our kin and related communities with whom we share a common history and culture in a wide and rich civilization basis. Hereby, YTB aims to leave a richer common cultural heritage to the future by strengthening the existing relations at all levels with these communities that are recognized as sister communities by Turkey. YTB, which undertakes a crucial task in increasing international student mobility in our country, Turkey Scholarships program to international students coming to our country from all over the world since 2012. This program has become a global brand of Turkey at undergraduate and graduate levels, offering comprehensive and advantageous educational supports. International students who have undertaken important roles in the growth and development processes of their countries as Turkey alumni after receiving education at our country's distinguished universities with Turkey Scholarships achieve success in every field they work in, and on the other hand, make significant
Thank you, YTB, for the montage video. And now, may I now respectfully invite the Honorable Mr. Murad Kazandi, Vice President of YTB, to share his remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. His Excellency Mr. Emir Salim Yüksel, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia and member of IEM Board of Governance, Honorable Professor Dr. Abdulaziz Bergut, Dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, Ambassador Razdan Jamil, Undersecretary West Asia, Wisma Putra, Your Excellencies, representatives from Diplomatic Corps, editors of the book Studies on the Relations Between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia, honorable discussants and guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and honor to address you today at the book launch of the Studies on the Relations Between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. On behalf of my institution, YTB, I'm delighted to be with you in this special event. As you all know, the Ottoman Empire, as a prominent power in the Islamic world, played a significant role in fostering solidarity with the Malay world in various ways. Our relations with the region were not only rooted in Islamic unity, but were also shaped by shared cultural and economic values. Today, this shared history forms the foundation of the strong political, economic, and cultural partnership between Turkey and Malaysia. These historical bonds inspire us as we work to preserve our legacy while strengthening bilateral cooperation in the present day. In recent years, Turkey and Malaysia have elevated their relations to the level of comprehensive strategic partnership, marked by collaboration across numerous multilateral platforms, including the United Nations, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and DA. Our economic relations have also grown steadily, complemented by regular high-level visits. However, the relationship between our two nations is far more profound than formal relations and statistics. Despite the thousands of kilometers that separate us, Turkey and Malaysia have always derived strength from each other's presence, shared a deep brotherhood, and stood united in challenging times. Honorable guests, as the government agency working under the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of the Republic of Turkey, our office supports Turkey's cultural and public diplomacy initiatives, focusing on Turkish citizens living abroad, friendly communities and countries which we have historical ties, and international students who aim to study at Turkish universities with a comprehensive government scholarship program. To support academic, intellectual, and cultural exchange between Turkey and Malaysia, YTB designed and implemented various short-term and long-term projects to date. YTB annually provides about 20 full-time scholarships for Malaysian students and academics. Currently, 78 students are studying at Turkish universities under the Turkey Scholarship Program with full financial support. Diplomats, academics, and officials from various ministries of the Malaysian government participate each year in YTB's 8-month Turkish language and experience sharing program called Katip. In addition to these efforts, YTB has supported academic, cultural, and social projects such as Pacific Stars Initiative, which engaged nearly 200 students from Asia-Pacific countries, including Malaysia. More recently, Next Generation Academy program has offered Malaysian youth with the opportunities to develop skills in media, foreign policy, and leadership while fostering strong ties with Turkey and Turkish youth. These initiatives represent just the beginning of our efforts to honor the depth and strength of our bilateral relations. Dear guests, historical and cultural relations between Turkey and Southeast Asia, including Malaysia, hold great importance due to the region's rich heritage and openness to diversity. It's an honor to see Turkey's unique place within Southeast Asia's vibrant history and to feel that this sense of connection is mutual. After rigorous discussions with academics and experts in the field, YTB decided to launch a project that would elaborate and demonstrate the relations of the Ottoman Empire with the region based on archival research, outcome of which has been published recently by YTB. This book exemplifies the value of scholarly curiosity in shedding light on lesser-known aspects of these relations. The book explores historical ties between the Ottoman Empire and nations like Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. It aims to serve as both a guide and a reference for further studies, fostering greater understanding and appreciation. For the book, noteworthy contributions came from distinguished academics, both from Turkey and the countries of the region. All the articles in the book offer compelling perspectives about the relationship between the Ottoman Empire and the region, about some prominent figures, about the archives, and about literary interaction across the vast geography of the empire and the region. I would like to end my speech by congratulating the editors of the book and those who have contributed. I hope that the work will make substantial contribution to the existing literature. And thank you for your attention and presence in this meaningful event. And I would like to thank also the Turkish Embassy and İSTAK as well for organizing and hosting this event. I wish you a very fruitful program and extend my warmest regards to all of you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murad Kazandi. I now welcome His Excellency Emir Salim Yüksel, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia, to address us with his words of wisdom.
It's okay. After Murad Bey, it's a bit. Mr. Murad Kazandi, Vice President of YTB, Honorable Professor Dr. Abdulaziz Bargut, Dean of International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization İSTAK, Ambassador Razdan Cemil, Undersecretary for West Asia in Wismaputra, ambassadors, high commissioners, and the representatives of the diplomatic corps, Professor İsmail Hakkı Kadı, Professor Dr. İsmail Hakkı Göksoy, editors of the book studies on the relations between Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia, honorable discussants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, Selamun Aleyküm ve Rahmetullah ve Berekatuh. Salam Sajahtara, Salamat Datang, and a very good afternoon to everybody. Hoş geldiniz Türk kardeşlerimiz için de. It's a great honor to gather here today to launch an exceptional book prepared under the auspices of the Presidency for Turks Abroad and Related Communities, which we use the acronym of YTB. Let me start by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the esteemed academics who contributed to this book and İSTAK for graciously hosting us for this meaningful event. The book studies on the relations between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia offers a remarkable exploration of the historical, cultural, and political ties between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. Despite the physical distance between Turkey and this region, deep spiritual bond has always existed. This precious connection, enriched through shared values, continues to inspire collaboration and friendship. Turkey places great importance on Asia and recognizes the immense potential for cooperation between our nation and this vibrant continent. Guided by this vision, Turkey launched the Asia Anew initiative in 2019, seeking to deepen political, economic, and military partnerships while also strengthening our socio-cultural bonds. In this regard, Malaysia holds a very special place. Our connection with Malaysia did not begin in 1964 when we established diplomatic relations, nor in 1957 when Turkey officially recognized Malaysia's independence. It reaches back to centuries. Since then, the relationship between Turkey and Malaysia has been a story of friendship and brotherhood, which fosters a unique bond of affection and solidarity. In addition to enhancing our already strong political relations, we aim at fortifying these ties through deeper cultural engagement. This includes educational and academic collaboration, which is vital for bridging our nations and creating shared understanding. Academic partnerships, such as this project, allows us to revisit and reinterpret our historical connections with new perspectives. They also enable us to build sustainable frameworks for future cooperation in education, research, and culture. This book not only sheds light on the past, but also lays the foundation for Turkey's relationship with this region to grow stronger and more comprehensive. By examining our shared history through an academic perspective, it becomes a valuable resource for researchers, policymakers, and anyone interested in common heritage. I think we will listen to important remarks from my dear friend, Professor Bargut Abdulaziz, and Deputy President, we have already listened to the important remarks from Dr. Bargut Abdulaziz and our Deputy President for YTB. Editors and writers and reviewers, I think, will make an important contribution during the upcoming session. Together, we will uncover how trade, religion, and diplomacy have a bridge from the depths of history to the present day. I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to the contributors of this project and to YTB for their unwavering support. I'm confident this book will serve as an essential reference for academics and enthusiasts alike. Finally, I would like to repeat my sincere thanks to ISTAC for their facilitation this wonderful gathering. I wish you all the fruitful and inspiring event. Thank you so much. Terima kasih. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Emir Salim Yüksel. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have all been waiting for has arrived. The official launching of the book Studies on the Relations between the Ottoman Empire and the Southeast Asia. We now invite His Excellency Mr. Emir Salim Yüksel, Mr. Murad Kazandi, along with Professor Dr. Abdulaziz Bargut to the stage for the launching session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to announce the official launch of the book Studies on the Relations between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. This groundbreaking work embodies years of meticulous research and collaboration, reflecting the rich history and interconnectedness of the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. Congratulations to the authors, editors, and contributors for this remarkable achievement. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we now invite all dignitaries to step down from the stage for a photo session with the audience. Before the photo session begins, books will be distributed to the special guests seated in the front row. Okay, we now invite all guests and participants to come forward, to stand up and come forward and fill the spaces in between for a photo session. Yeah, everyone can stand up and come in front, ensuring everyone is part of this memorable moment. Come in front, fill in the... Please do not leave the floor yet, as we will continue for the book discussion session. Please remain in the hall for the book discussion session. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, to guide us through this enriching session, I am honored to invite Dr. Ahmad El Muhammadi, Assistant Professor at the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, to moderate the session.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before I start the session, I would like to invite the editors and discussant of the book to the front, Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Kadi, Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Gotsoy, Professor Dr. Fields Dirolu, and our discussant, Professor Dr. Ahmad Murad Marikan, Professor Abdul Hafiz, All right, so first and foremost, let me welcome all of you to the book review session. I think the book launching is not complete without a book review session or discussion about the content of the book. Before the program started, I actually have gone through, glanced through the book, and I would say this book, which is entitled The Studies on the Relation Between the Ottoman Empire and the Southeast Asia, edited by the Professor Ismail Haqqi Gotsoy and also Professor Ismail Haqqi Kadi, I would say one of the finest, or maybe finest book on the Ottoman Southeast Asian relations. I tried to go through the other works before. I think what we find is this book. And we can download, I think, for free in the PDF form. So to learn more about this, we are fortunate. We have the editor of the book itself, and we have two discussants that we are going to talk about this afternoon. And I think that this book I would say it's marked one of the milestones in the Ottoman and Southeast Asia relation. Of course, we have been having these relations for quite some time, for a very long time, and this would be one of the most important events, is the publication of this book. So to start our discussion this afternoon, it is my pleasure to invite the first speaker, that is Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Kadi, to start. You're welcome, sir.
A lot of pages, so thank you very much. History is about the present as much as it is about the past, because the present has a formative impact on how we practice history. Our research questions, topics, reflects what we are interested here and now. On the other hand, what we want to learn about the past now has a great deal to do with our vision of the future as well. Thus, the research topics and questions of the historian, if intellectually relevant, reflect the contemporary curiosity, intellectual engagement, as well as the future agenda of the society in which the historian lives. In this sense, history is constructing the future in the past from now. The book that we are launching today has a great deal to do with these statements, as I will elaborate upon further in my talk. After I finished my PhD in 2009, I started to work as a postdoctoral research fellow at a British Academy-funded project on Ottoman Southeast Asian relations. I could never have imagined that this reorientation of my research agenda would last this long. During the subsequent years, the extension of my research from one topic to another was never planned in advance, but rather developed in response to several requests and invitations from various parties. The fact that a significant part of these requests came from government agencies along with research institutions is important to note here. The earliest of such requests came from the Thai Foreign Ministry in 2010, leading to the publication of our book on Ottoman-Thai relations in 2017. Another initiative for the promotion of research on Ottoman-Malay world relations came in 2014, when an IIUM delegation headed by Dr. Reis Yetim visited Turkey and proposed the establishment of two Ottoman Malay World Research Centers, one at IIUM and another in Turkey. The center at the IIUM was opened in 2015, and the one in Turkey, OSMAT, was opened at Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf University in the following year. Unfortunately, both centers didn't last today. The research project that led to this book was initiated and funded by YTB and coordinated by OSMAT in Istanbul. In early 2020, the project was discussed in a workshop among Turkish academics and YTB officials who encouraged the recruitment of Southeast Asian scholars for cooperation in the project. I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Alvi Alatas and Professor Farid Alatas, who responded positively to our request to join the team, which was otherwise exclusively Turkish. It was decided to conduct research on specific topics and to publish the research results in an edited volume. However, due to the pandemic, the project was postponed for a while and resumed at the end of 2021. Except for a few, most of the initially planned topics were completed and prepared for publication. In the course of the project, the researchers have consulted various sources from the Prime Ministry Ottoman Archives in Istanbul to Leiden University Library in the Netherlands. At this point, I consider it an obligation to express my gratitude to several individuals along with the authors. Beyond the president of YTB, a number of its staff members deserve special thanks. Mr. Murad Kazandi, head of the Cultural and Social Affairs Department at that time, was the mastermind behind the project. Mrs. Hale Karasipahioğlu and Meryem Uzar and Mr. Ebu Bekir Bişkiner and Muhammed Mücahit Yılmaz worked meticulously for its realization. Mr. Serdar Çöp, director of OSMAT at Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf University, deserves special thanks for his patience while coordinating the project between the academics on the one hand and the YTB on the other. I would also like to express my gratitude to my Malaysian student Najiha Binti Moht Fauzi for the assistance she lent me during the editorial process. Last but not least, I would like to thank Professor Göksoy for his fruitful cooperation. The institutional support and encouragement didn't stop with the YTB project. While we were working on the project, I received a surprising invitation from Raja Zarit Sofia of Johor Foundation to deliver a lecture at Johor campus of the UTM in January 2023. In October of the same year, we were again on our way to KL for a very fruitful conference at this venue on the Ottomans and the Malay world, organized by Professor Farid Alatas and his excellent team, which was sponsored by IRSIKA, ISTAC, and other institutions. I think that this brief narrative illuminates the continuous encouragement that our area of study has been receiving in recent years. It is obvious that this encouragement is rooted in a common vision of people of Southeast Asia and Turkey for more intensive and closer relations with each other. In this context, the historians are expected to examine the historical connections between these societies to lay down the foundations for a better future. I think that our community of historians have been able to fulfill this expectation to a certain extent until now. Anthony Reid's earlier works, based on Western sources, have later been supplemented by Ismail Hakkı Göksoy's pioneering works based on Ottoman source material. An important cornerstone in the literature had been the British Academy-sponsored research project Islam Trade and Politics Across the Indian Ocean, which led to the relevant publications by Andrew Peacock, Annabel Tehkalop, and myself in recent years. It is not possible to provide an exhaustive list of the scholars who have contributed to the area in recent years. Even more joyful has been the fact that a new generation of researchers have joined our ranks and are pushing the boundaries of our knowledge further away. There have been two main challenges that the community of historians had to address in the course of these endeavors. The first one has been getting the facts right. This might sound easier than it in fact is, especially in research areas where myths are in wide circulation to the extent that they penetrated the publications that are esteemed, if not considered of academic quality. Myths, such as those pertaining to the origins of Rukiye and Hatice Hanım, Ottoman involvement in the Java War of 1825-30, and several others needed to be addressed for an adequate understanding of the real nature of the relations. I think that the book that we are launching today has important consequences for these established myths. Last year, during his address at the conference at this venue, Professor Alatas has rightly highlighted the second challenge that needs to be addressed. That is the conceptualization and elaboration upon the meaning of the facts that we have unearthed and studied. It is not a secret that the historians are not the best theoreticians among the academics. This may partly account for the lack of any theoretical discussion on the wider meaning of the facts that has been unearthed and studied so far. Nevertheless, I would like to make a couple of remarks in an attempt to lay the ground for further debates. I think that two deeply rooted misconceptions in our area of study precludes a better understanding of the nature of the relations between the Ottoman Empire and the Muslims of Southeast Asia. The first one of these is the widespread perception of these interactions within the framework of center-periphery relations. This approach has the potential of ignoring the agendas, roles, and agency of Southeast Asian actors and reduce them to passive objects of policies formulated in Istanbul. There is also the potential to overlook the role of Hijaz in the communication, translation, and probably transformation of these agendas. Alternatively, I suggest that we should recognize the multi-directional nature of these interactions and pay more attention to the agency of Southeast Asian actors, their agendas, and their role, even in the formulation of policies in Istanbul. A second conceptual impediment to a better understanding of the nature of these relations is what I would call the pan-Islamism paradigm. This colonial coinage has contaminated the relevant literature as well as the popular perceptions to the extent that it has become impossible to produce a work without using or referring to it. In its most crudest form, the protagonists of this paradigm envisage the Muslims of Southeast Asia and the Ottoman Empire as a pan-Islamist bloc, struggling against another bloc that is their colonial adversaries. Quite interestingly, this perception shares the basic characteristics of how, for instance, Snoek Groenje, the renowned Dutch Orientalist and colonialist, envisaged these relations in the 19th century. Snoek Groenje readily labeled all kinds of contacts between the Ottomans and Muslims of Dutch colonies as pan-Islamism, which he condemned as a demonic plot designed by Abdülhamid II for political gains, for which he instigated people against their legitimate colonial masters. There is no doubt that the term is heavily loaded with colonial attitudes and reflects colonial perceptions of Ottoman involvement with the wider Islamic world in late 19th century. Hakan Yavuz rightly stated that pan-Islamism is a concept coined and used by European colonialists in order to reduce the opposing influence of Islam against colonial rule. Moreover, the concept is reductionist in the sense that it overlooks the diversity of the anti-colonial movements in Southeast Asia and reduce their diverse agendas to a single, all-encompassing agenda. It is religious essentialist in the sense that it reduces diverse socially, economically, and politically motivated responses to an essentially religious behavior. Last but not least, it projects defensive Muslim anti-colonialism as offensive, aggressive, and anti-Western, as this version of narrative suited the colonial discourse better. The dramatic advances in communication and transportation in the 19th century enabled the Muslims of all around the world to communicate and interact to an extent that was never possible before. This created various opportunities for both Ottomans as well as the Muslim communities around the world, but enabled the Western colonial empires to establish a far stronger grip over the world politics. Under these specific circumstances, Ottoman statesmen did not openly challenge the Eurocentric imperial world order, which would endanger the very existence of the empire. In such an international setting, the Ottoman statesmen could only pursue their agenda on the sidewalks of politics and diplomacy. On the other hand, the colonial powers did not pursue a standard and universally adverse policy against Ottomans' rapprochement with the wider Islamic world, while it is true that they viewed it with a lot of suspicion. The Dutch were the most timid in this respect, while the British did initiate activities that would potentially promote Ottoman influence, and on many occasions, the same Brits tried to take advantage of this influence as well. As the editors of this book, we have tried to ensure that the papers accounted for these complexities. You and the reviewers here are the authority who will judge whether we have been successful in this aim or not. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ismail Haki, for the presentation just now. I would say there are two key points that I can take from that is the quality of the work and the authenticity, the originality of the sources that you use in publication of this book that actually make the book is very special. I'm looking forward to read the detail of the book. Now, let us move to the second presenter, that is Professor Dr. Ismail Haki Godsoy, the head of Department of Islamic History and Art, Faculty of Theology, Sulaiman Demirel University. You're welcome.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for the book launch on the studies between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia region. So I will follow from the presentation PowerPoints my speech, and I will speak about usually the contents of the book, what kind of information and what kind of chapters we had in the book. Actually, relations and the connections between the Ottoman geography and Southeast Asia were studied by the academic people in various universities until now. But they used mostly European sources and also Malay or Indonesian sources produced in this region. So the most important point here is that Ottoman Turkish sources are neglected mostly by the scholars because of the language problem. So the most important thing that we had produced or edited this book is that the book used mostly Ottoman Turkish archival and documentary sources, newspapers and other sources as well. Actually, before this book, there was one Aceh conference after the tsunami in Indonesia. So later on, this conference prompted a research study by the British Academy, which resulted in a book form, you can see on the screen, by two British editors from Anatolia to Aceh. Then also scholars asked us to search about the Ottoman archival sources. What kind of sources are there connected with this region? So my colleague Ismail Hakkı Kadı and also British scholar, historian Andrew Peacock, together they produced two volumes books, especially archival sources were included in that book. So these studies showed us that, I mean, there might be specific studies because we have a lot of information on these relations between the Ottoman geography and also Southeast Asia region. So main aim of this book is to search some specific topics in a book form, and in that actually YTB initiated this project. So this book includes 6 chapters. So first chapter is mine. It is titled as Ottoman Shaykhul Islam of Philippines, Mehmet Veci Efendi, his life, duties and activities. So until now there are some studies done on this subject in some articles, and also some Ottoman archival documents were published by a Turkish scholar, and one American PhD student did a PhD on the American rule in Moraland, but very rarely touch on this issue in their sources, especially British scholar William Clarence Simms wrote 3 articles on that subject, but they used mostly European sources written in English. So since the subject is concerned with the Ottoman Empire, so Ottoman Turkish became very important here. So this study on the Veci Efendi mainly contains information about him. So we discovered that in the office of, in the archive of Shaykhul Islam office in Istanbul, his education, his family, his career before coming here, sending to Philippines. Although he worked there very few months, but about him, they were produced a lot of official documents later on, because the Ottoman government sent him to later on US to come to Philippines, and in the actually American newspapers interested in this case very much. So you can see some sources here, some pictures. Usually this assignment was considered by the American assignment, but when we look at the sources in the Ottoman archives, it is certain that the initiative firstly came from the Mora leaders in Moraland. So their letters reached to the Ottoman center, to Istanbul. And in Istanbul press, mentioned about the Mora petition and the American Major Finlay who came to Istanbul to visit here. And we have very important source in Ottoman Turkish, because Veci Efendi, when he traveled to Philippines, he called at the Indian cities. So he wrote what he did during his travel. So, for instance, 5th letter is on his arrival in Singapore. And also, he wrote the letter while he was in the Philippines, but one letter we missed. Probably it was captured by some intelligence person before going to reach to Istanbul. And you can see the last letter which he sent to Istanbul together with a photograph, together with the Moro people while he was preaching the Moro Muslims there. And going on to New York, American press very much interested on him. So one of New York Tribune depicted him with a Muslim saint. You can see after backside of the head, Christian, we say Hala, Satanist picture. Finally, we discovered he died in USA, although he was not allowed to go to Philippines. He died in Virginia, in Richmond City. His cemetery, through Qadi's colleagues there, so they researched his graveyard in Richmond Hollywood Cemetery. So they sent us this picture, and we included in the book this as well. Second chapter is very important, carried out by Filiz Hanım, our colleague, Malay publications printed in Ottoman Empire and Mecca Provincial Printing House in the Hijaz area. So until now, we had some studies in even Malay Indonesian world and also in European sources, what kind of books were published in Ottoman printing houses. So, I mean, most of the information come from the oral sources, not official ones. So, Filiz Hanım, our colleague, studied what kind of Malay books were published, especially in Istanbul, in official printing houses and non-official printing houses. And also there was one Ottoman printing house, Matbaa Amira, in Mecca, so provincial printing house, that played very important role in printing Malay books there. So in late 19th century and early 20th centuries, most of the schools or intellectuals used these Malay books printed in Mecca or either in Istanbul. So for instance, one of the first Malay tafsir even was published in Istanbul, and they distributed to this area as well. That is the Ottoman Provincial Printing House in Mecca and the seal of the Mecca Provincial Printing House. So Filiz Hanım will discuss more detail in this. And the third chapter is concerns with the visit of Sultan Ebu Bekir of Johor in 1893 by my colleague İsmail Hakkı Kadı. Actually, on this visit, there is one British memorial book, Blan's book, memorial book. There are some oral information written in Malay studies, but very little. So through this, chapter, we learned that Sultan Ebu Bekir of Johor Sultanate, came not only to Istanbul, but visited Izmir and also later on Edirne, and he was welcomed by the Ottoman ambassador in Vienna as well. We have also Ottoman Turkish newspapers followed this visit and produced a lot of articles on him. So what kind of places he visited in Istanbul? We have all documentary or articles on that visit as well. And also that picture was taken by the photographer of Abdülhamid II, called Abdullah Ferreras, during his visit to Istanbul. And one of the important person who traveled together with Sultan Ebu Bekir of Johor was Sekkaf leader, Sayyid Muhammad Sekkaf, from Singapore as well. And when Sultan Bakr died and the new Sultan, Sultan Ibrahim of Johor, he informed to Ottoman palace, sending a picture, young picture to him, that a new Sultan was inaugurated in the Johor Sultanate. And the fourth chapter deals with the Hadramis in Southeast Asia, especially in Singapore and also Batavia. Actually, there are a lot of studies on this subject, Hadramis' roles in political, educational, and economical fields. And in these studies, usually very slightly are touched the connections, relations between the Hadramis and the Ottoman authorities, especially in this region. Especially for that chapter, the authors, Turkish PhD, post-PhD student Alaaddin Tekin, and also from background with Hadrami origin, Ulvi El-Atas, wrote this chapter. So, what kind of relations existed between the Hadramis, Hadrami leaders, traders, and Ottoman authorities in this region? We discovered that most of the Hadramis initially became the honorable consuls. Then later on in the Turkish consulates, especially in Batavia, in Jakarta, and also in Singapore, they work as staff members. And for instance, during the Abdülhamid period in late 19th century, there were some Indonesian, Malaysian students who given scholarship to study in Ottoman schools. So most of them come from Hadrami origin people. And also Hadrami leaders played very important role in diplomatic missions as well. So Aceh mission, for instance, was led by a Hadrami leader. And the students from this area in the Ashirat school in Istanbul in 1899 in a Turkish newspaper. So the fifth chapter is concerning with the Rukiya Hanım, written by one of the descendants of Rukiya Hanım, Sayyid Hüseyin Ferit El-Atas, who is here among us. So on the Rukiya Hanım, we can see some studies, especially in Malay language, and also to some extent in Turkish language. In English, we can have some information. But these mostly are popular articles. So Sayyid Hüseyin Farid El-Atas academically approached the subject. So he used mostly Malay sources, but the most important thing is that still we didn't have any information about her before coming to this area, to Johor actually. So she was, Caucasian origin concubine. Later on, he was educated in the Ottoman harem, because in the Ottoman harem, when the concubines reached to the age of the 21 or 20 years old, some of them were given marriage to most important authorities, and some of them stayed there as civil servants in the Ottoman palace. So that is very important case. And together, Rukiya Hanım, there was also Hatice Hanım, who married with the Sultan of Johor as well. So their descendants played very important role in educational and political and even some scholarly fields in Malaysia as well. So you can see the old picture of Rukiya Hanım and also Hatice Hanım. And the last chapter is concerned Yıldız Photograph albums on Malaysia and Indonesia. So this chapter was written by an archivist who worked at the İSİKA in Istanbul. So in the Yıldız Photograph albums, we had about 129 photographs on Malaysia and Indonesia. Most of the photographs are copied from the photographers' photographs, but some of them were taken, produced in Istanbul, especially during the visits or some other on occasions. So these photographs are on the rulers of this region, and some photographs consist of photographs of tribes and people from different social groups, and some photographs are on the regional landscape and buildings as well. So in the Yıldız photograph album, we had 129 photographs. These are the historical sources as well. So one of them is here, Sultan Abdul Samad of Selangor, and from Java, Ninth Paku Buwono, Sultan of Surakarta. And in conclusion, we can say that, writing on Malay-Indonesian connections with the Ottoman geography, there isn't enough to use only English sources or Dutch sources or Malay-Indonesian sources, but there is abundance of official sources or newspaper articles on that subject as well. So one of the most important thing is that in the book that the knowledge, the information included in our edited book comes from Turkish sources. So in terms of this, the chapters are more original and providing new information to the case. And this book also, another conclusion we can say that when we look at the Turkish sources, still there are some specific subjects to be studied separately or independently. Maybe in the future we can go together this one. So finally, I would like to thank for all the institutions and the persons who contributed to publication and the process of this book, our chapter authors, and also our thanks should go first to YTB. From the right beginning, they coordinated the book. Not only they supported materially, financially, but also they always, tackled with the problems. Another institution which was OSMAT, the Center for Ottoman Malay World Studies in the Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf University, especially one clerk, the secretary of this center, Serdar Çöp, all the official business tackled in this. And finally, my thanks to the authorities of ISTAC here, who organized this book launch and facilitated here. Thanks for all. Terima kasih banyak.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ismail Aki Gosoi, the head of the Department of Islamic History and Art, Faculty of Theology, Islam at the Emirate University. Ladies and gentlemen, let us move to the next presenter, that is by the Associate Professor, Dr. Phyllis Dirolu. She is one of the contributors in the book Malay publication printed in the Ottoman Empire and Mecca Provincial Printing House. That would be very interesting. You're welcome.
It's okay. Thank you very much. This one. I'm really happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to begin by sharing how honored I am to be part of this remarkable project. I want to extend my sincere thanks to organizations and colleagues who made this book possible, and to offer a special thanks to Professor Kadı, because without his email a few years ago asking about Javi books, the chapter in this book that has brought us together today wouldn't exist. At the time, I was conducting research in the Ottoman archives on the Mashhad Council, the council overseeing religious publications at the center of the Caliphate in Istanbul. Manuscripts were submitted from across Ottoman territories to the Shaykhul Islam's Council for publication approval, where religious scholars evaluated their suitability. Among these were the Javi books published in Mecca. As you all know, these were religious books, and it was understandable that they were printed in Mecca. Professor Kadı was curious about references to these Javi books in Ottoman records, and he was willing to know what kind of details there were in the Ottoman sources about the books written in Javi alphabet. Because these texts written in Javi alphabet had a wide readership in Southeast Asia, in response to his interest, I suggested that through research into the Mecca printing press's activities, we could trace the history of Javi publications in Ottoman lands. Following this conversation, he invited me to join the project and undertake this research. After extensive study in libraries and archives in Istanbul and Leiden, I was able to complete this chapter. To begin, I should clarify that Javi print refers to Malay books written in Javi alphabet, since we lack clear evidence that books in other languages were printed in this alphabet. I have chosen to use the term Javi as it appears in Ottoman sources, which describe these books simply as Javi. My research reveals that under Sultan Abdülhamit II, the Ottomans demonstrated a keen interest in the Muslim communities of the Javanese islands, as part of the Khalifa's broader policy of supporting ties with Muslims beyond Ottoman borders. An example of this interest appeared in 1891, when one of Istanbul's leading newspaper, Tercüman-ı Hakikat, you can see in the slides, featured an article on Java. Unusually, it quoted directly from a newspaper published in the Javanese islands. Tercüman-ı Hakikat briefly described the Javanese newspaper, then focused on book advertisements on its final page. This was interesting as Ottoman newspaper often covered the Javanese islands and local life, but this article took a different approach. The Istanbul-based paper identified 98 Javanese book titles, offering readers a glimpse into the Javanese literary words by interpreting the Arabic-Persian terms in the titles. Remarkably, this article appeared on the front page of a prominent Istanbul daily around the same time that the state printing press in Mecca was producing a significant number of Javi books. In the closing lines of the article, pride is expressed in the intellectual achievements of the Muslim brothers in the Javanese islands, alongside a genuine interest in connecting with them. While the article clearly reflects intellectual engagement and a desire to strengthen ties between the communities, it's important to consider the editorial policy of the newspaper, which often aligned with the palace's broader objectives. I should mention the Hijaz, which includes Mecca, which is our subject, and as you know, the Hijaz served as much more than a place for Southeast Asian Muslims to perform religious duties such as Hajj and Umrah. It was also a vital intellectual center where the ulama of the Malay diaspora taught various sciences. For Malay scholars, Mecca was a hub for book production, and many authored significant works there. From the latter half of the 19th century, printed copies of these works began to circulate, brought home by Malay pilgrims and students. This is why I focused on the Jawi books printed in Mecca, aiming to trace their production and sale. In my chapter for this book, I explored the printing and publishing activities for the Javanese island communities, a force that began in Cairo, gained momentum in Mecca during the period of Abdulhamid II, and reached even Istanbul, the heart of the Caliphate. My research questions included why the Ottoman Empire sanctioned publishing in a language with a limited readership in Ottoman lands, and further, how and why it provided support, directly or indirectly, for such printing endeavors. There is limited information in the literature addressed Mecca's prominent role in connecting the Ottoman Empire and the Malay world through books, and Ahmed al-Fatani's role in managing Mecca's printing operations. So, starting from this, I tried to clarify the scale and purpose of the Mecca printing press's production for Jawi readers. The establishment of the provincial printing press in Mecca marked the beginning of a pivotal second phase in Jawi book production on Ottoman land. Following the first phase of Jawi publishing in Cairo, which had started much earlier in 1859. The building you see on the slides is the Mecca printing house, and the governor, Osman Pasha, made a great effort to open it, and opened on 8 August 1883. The Mecca printing house, like other provincial presses, was designed to fulfill both government needs and the growing demands of local publishers and booksellers. Some publishers from Mecca, in fact, had initially attempted to print Javanese books in Istanbul, managing to publish a few titles there. And yet Mecca's sizable Malay diaspora was better equipped for this niche publishing, and crucially had access to robust distribution networks, making Mecca more suitable than Istanbul for Jawi book publishing. Therefore, the press was overseen by the Ottoman governor of Mecca, who observed in a report to central administration that many books printed in Ottoman territories, especially in Egyptian presses, were being transported through Mecca and Cairo to reach readers in India and Javanese islands. The governor noted that the Mecca press produced higher quality prints than those in Egypt, a fact valued by local booksellers. He recommended that with an expansion, the Mecca press could fully meet regional needs, potentially eliminating the need for reliance on Egyptian printing facilities. Could request to expand the Mecca printing press as an alternative to Egyptian presses, along with the related correspondence, be seen as an indication of an Ottoman effort to redirect Jawi book production from Cairo to Mecca? I believe it can, as this issue had both political and commercial significance. The first historical context to recall is the British occupation in Egypt. In 1882, British dominance in Cairo heightened the strategic importance of a Meccan printing press for Ottoman authorities. Additionally, Mecca supported a lively book market, and the demand for books and treatises on the Malay world was considerable. Furthermore, many educated Malays, particularly madrasa graduates, could read religious books in Arabic. Consequently, both the state and private sectors saw a viable market in Mecca that catered to Malay and Arabic-speaking readers. Given the Ottoman Empire's central role in the broader Muslim world, it's likely that the Mecca printing press was skillfully deployed as an instrument to align with the Khalifa's objectives for engaging with the Malay world. Two notable Javanese scholars based in Mecca, Sheikh Ahmed Fatani and Sheikh Dawood Fatani, were employed as editors at the printing press. Ahmed Fatani, who oversaw Javanese publications, began his tenure by publishing works he deemed essential teachings of the renowned Malay scholar Daud al-Fatani. During his time at the press, around 75% of the published works were authored by Daud al-Fatani. To talk about bookstores and booksellers in Mecca, actually, Mecca's booksellers and sahafs played a crucial role in printing both Arabic and Javanese texts at the Mecca printing press and contributed significantly to the development of the Javanese book market. Two key figures in the field of Javi publishing were part of this ecosystem. One was Mujallid Ahmed, a Malay of Indian origin who operated as both a publisher and bookbinder in Babu Salam, Mecca's bookstore district near Masjid al-Haram. His father, Mujallid Abdullah Hindi, was an entrepreneurial publisher who printed books in the Cairo, Bombay, and Mecca, selling them in their Meccan shop. The Mujallid family, both father and son, undoubtedly played a pivotal role in establishing and expanding the Mecca-based Javi book trade. Another significant institution was the Mektebe Fataniye, an enterprise likely led by Ahmed al-Fatani. Many of the books it distributed were printed at the Mecca printing press. This institution became a principal supplier of educational materials for numerous pondok schools in Malaysia, Indonesia, Patani, and Cambodia, each providing Islamic education in the traditional madrasa style. Given that Ahmed al-Fatani managed both the Mektebe Fataniye and the Javi book department at the provincial press, it is reasonable to consider the printing operations of these two institutions together. Their combined output was on par with that of Mujallid Ahmed's establishment. While the smaller in scale, the Terakki printing house, founded by Majid al-Kurdi, also made a notable contribution to Javanese book printing. A large portion of the Mecca printing press's output, along with these prominent bookstores, was aimed at a Southeast Asian readership. In the Middle East, this audience included students, teachers, and pilgrims visiting the holy cities, with pilgrimage books in particular being in high demand among pilgrims who spent extended periods in Mecca and Medina. In short, when it comes to the conclusion, the Javanese press produced within the Cairo, Mecca, Istanbul triangle supplied not only Javanese communities in the Ottoman lands, but also the broader Malay-speaking world. From the 1880s, the special role of the Mecca press in Javanese publishing reflects a well-planned policy by Khalifa Sultan Abdulhamid II. One factor boosting the press's activities was, of course, the demand from Meccan booksellers who wanted to serve the Javanese pilgrims and students among their clientele. These entrepreneurial booksellers spared no effort to ensure they stocked books printed in Mecca, as well as titles from Cairo, Istanbul, and Bombay, ensuring their shops met the needs of Southeast Asian readers. Here in summary, through the Javanese books in the Ottoman land, a topic with limited existing research produced, I have sought to highlight the Javanese as a distinct community of readers and the network of figures producing and supplying these texts. In closing, I would like to ask my esteemed colleagues for your support in researching how Southeast Asian readers received these Meccan printed books and their impact on the region. I hope that together we can further enrich the narrative of the Javanese book reader in this historical account. If I have a time, I can show you a few examples of printed books in the Mecca printing house. First, I show you a list of Javi books printed in the early years of the printing house in the Ottoman sources. Second, it's a Malay translation of the famous book Hikam. Here we can see the meticulous editing work of Ahmed Fatani because he detects that some narrations do not belong to the translator. Third slide, the seal that the Mecca printing house put on its book. And fourth slide, show the sealed pages that Ahmed Fatani emphasized so that the Malay reader could distinguish the books published under his own editorship. Another slide is the cover page of a popular book that was printed in large numbers. And the last image belongs to Kifayat al-Ghulam, which had 6 editions in the Mecca printing house. Thank you for your attention and patience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Phyllis, for your presentation. Before we go to the question and answer, let us listen to the review by the Professor Dr. Ahmad Murad from the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, and he's actually also the leader of Malay Maritime Civilization Project. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, congratulations to the editors, the writers, and the publisher for such a well-conceived book on Malay-Ottoman relations. This book would definitely be well received by readers in Malaysia. Because in Malaysia, if you trace back over the last perhaps 20, 25 years, there is a renewed interest on the Ottomans. Books were published, many were published, were narrated on the Uthmaniyah, on some on Rome. There's a popular surge on returning to the glory of the Ottoman Empire in Malaysia. And as such, apart from this book, there are other books written and published historically, but this is the first book that has used archival, documentary, and oral sources as a result of several developments. What I saw is that over the last 24, 25 years, there has been the opening up of the archives. I suppose that this happens in many parts of the world also. I was working with SOAS in 2008 and 9 in the archives, and SOAS is known not to be open, not to be democratic in access to its materials. But when I was there, I noticed a new kind of openness. They allowed myself access to 11 volumes of materials which historians in Malaysia also would not have those volumes. And later, those materials, those letters in the 17th century were digitized. And at the same time, I also came across about the Ottoman archives from several sources. So this book is a culmination of perhaps a beginning of the use of archival sources in Turkey. Relations between the Malays and the Ottomans gone back over maybe a period of 700 years. It is not a recent phenomenon. It stretches over 7 centuries. And what we have, this book reflects a number of phases of this consciousness of the Malays, the psyche of the Malays toward the Ottoman. The first phase would be on the consciousness of Rome, the Eastern Roman Empire. And Rome has been narrated in Malay classical texts, Raja Rome or the Sultans of Rome, which refers to the Eastern Roman Empire. And many Malay classical texts in the 13th, 14th centuries would describe the strength and the authority of Rome, the mystique of Rome. And it was seen, it can be seen in many ways, a kind of fantasy, because at that time, the Malays in the Malay archipelago already have this idea of the Ottomans before it was known as the Ottomans that we call. So there was this so-called myth, from our perspective perhaps, dynastic genealogies. We read some of the classical texts that the Malays, the Malay kingship have its origins in that part of the world, in that history. Stories of origins, some perhaps fictive, fantastic and mysterious. I thought that this is the first phase, the genesis of this consciousness, which needs to be reread and relooked. I have this fascination over why, how Rome has come to the imagination of the Malays in many ways, through literary texts, through dynastic stories and narratives. The second phase is the dynamics between Malay polities and the Ottoman states between the 16th and 20th centuries, which is reflected in some of the chapters. These are more empirical, whereas the first phase was, you cannot justify, there are no dates, but you have names. The second phase is where you have context, you have letters, you have connections between the sultans, the monarchs of in the Malay archipelago, Aceh, and a few others, and the Ottoman sultans. So the second phase is marked, again, a more positive, a more certain link. Although there are questions over certain stories. For example, the Sultan of Malacca has sent letters to the Ottoman Sultan. I don't know. I've asked many people. I've asked Annabelle T. Gallup. She said that she couldn't find any documents in the archives in Istanbul. But the story or the vibes in Malaysia says that, yeah, there is a letter. I've not seen it. So again, this will be interesting to see. But the letters from Aceh and I think later on Johor and some of the Malay sultanates are there. So these represent a more positive relationship, a more definite way of interaction between the Malays and the Ottomans and the Malay archipelago. And I have this problem when I read first asked to discuss about this book. I do not have this. First time I'm looking at the hard copy. Nice smell and nice cover. I noticed the word Southeast Asia, Ottoman Empire and South Asia. But I saw in the writings, in the narrative, you have used the term Ottoman geography, which is very interesting. Ottoman geography, not Ottoman Empire, not state, but Ottoman geography. I was looking at the compatibility of the title between Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. Perhaps a better title, a better word to use would be Malay archipelago. South Asia is a new term, post-World War II, to benefit Americans. There was no South Asia then, but there was the Ottoman and there was the Malay archipelago. Of course, there are many terms to be used for the Malay archipelago, but I would prefer the term Malay archipelago, which refers to the peninsula, which refers to, what we call Thailand now, but it's the Malay Peninsula, not the Thai Malay Peninsula. So again, and it stretches from Sabang, Aceh to the Philippines. That's the Malay archipelago. And that would reflect interactions between two geographies and two cultures. This is cultural history and cultural geography. So I think the emphasis would be better reflected. The third phase, which perhaps was just presented just now, would be on the coverage of the Ottomans, Turkey, in the Malay periodicals, in the Malay press. Also in the press in Istanbul, in the Ottoman Empire, many Turkish newspapers and periodicals also cover the Malay archipelago. And I discovered that through some translations, that there is a certain Orientalistic view from the Ottomans on the Malay archipelago. You've taken the legacy of the West. And when looking at Java, for example, as there's some statements, Java as primitive, like what some European American anthropologists would describe places in the exotic lands and so on. But this is the third phase, the coverage in both sides. And this is very interesting to me because there you have the coverage of the Malay archipelago by the Turkish periodicals and newspapers. Here you have the coverage of the Ottomans by Malay newspapers. And this is between 1876 to World War II. There's intense coverage, intense narration, and in between that there are about 150 newspapers, including I think about 50 plus Hadrami newspapers written in Bahasa Melayu, also in Arabic, and they narrated about, and they mentioned Istanbul, for example. I'll give you an example later. That's the third phase, the phase of popular consciousness. The fourth phase is the present relations between Malaysia and Turkey. By the way, this year is the 60th year of diplomatic relations between Malaysia and Turkey, and 100 years after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. So this year is a very significant year with regard to the production of this book. And I congratulate again to all. The fifth phase is a renewed dynamism, as I mentioned early on, a renewed dynamism in the popular sense, in the renewed popular sense after the year 2000, with perhaps the inclusion of the Ottomans in Malaysian history textbooks. I've written a paper with my student, Typhoon, and how the Malaysian history textbook have covered Ottoman history. And this also reflects the renewed consciousness. So I suppose this program reflects some of these phases. A little bit an example of this history and cultural geography. The Raja Rom, an iconic figure to the Malays, representing East and West. Rome represents a revered and almost sacred realm in the traditional Malay psyche. I'll always remind listeners, whenever the subject discussed that of Rome mentioned in the Malay epics, it's not Rome immediately, but Rome as in the Eastern Roman Empire, which to some imagination would stretch from Constantinople to the frontiers of the northwest Indian subcontinent, which is Afghanistan and those areas. I would like to cite an example of this. This is in Hikayat Hang Tuah. Hikayat Hang Tuah is a Malay epic and a Malay classical text which was written in the 17th century, which describes the protagonist, Hang Tuah, the hero in Malay culture. He went to Rome, and he met, some say that he met Leonardo da Vinci. He went to Rome and he discussed with the Raja Rome. But it was not Rome in Italy, it was the Rome of Constantinople. Another is the coverage of the newspapers. Now, the interest in Turkey, was described as Turkey and the Ottomans, was catered much in the Malay papers in the 19th and 20th century. In the first Malay paper in Malaysia, actually there was a dispute, but this is called Jawi Peranakan in 1876 to 1896, published in Singapore. That was taken to be the first Bahasa Melayu newspaper. But the first Malay newspaper in the world is in Sri Lanka, Alamat Langkapuri, 1856. But anyway, but this is received to be the first newspaper. In that newspaper, 1876, published in Singapore, weekly they promote this Hikayat Perang Istanbul. Hikayat Perang Istanbul. Istanbul refers to Istanbul. So the term Istanbul is really there in the Hikayat. The story tells the story of the Crimean War between the Ottomans, Sultan Abdul Majid I, and Russia, Tsar Nikolai I. The aftermath of the Crimean War saw Europe degrading the caliphate. So this is again, how it appeared as a serial in the earliest Malay newspaper published in Singapore. And then there's another one, Jajahan Melayu, published in Taiping in the peninsula, refuted that attitude by defending the Turkish military. Hikayat Perang Istanbul, disseminated widely through Malay periodicals, reflect a Malay worldview together with the earlier reflection in the early Malay texts, 13, 14, 1500s, 13, 14, 15, 1600s, this time around reflecting the Malay worldview on the strength, authority, and stability of the Ottomans, and the respect of the writer toward the caliphate. Jayur Peranakan also carried much stories on the war involving Turkey, and the circulation, we're talking about the consumption, the circulation at the time was between 150 to 275 copies per issue, and this is a weekly issue. Imagine at that time, that number of circulation, one newspaper would be read by 10 people. Imagine how the Malays, urban Malays, and this was read in Singapore, Malacca, and Penang, and Batavia, and Medan, in the Malay port cities. So we can imagine how the Malay port cities have this concept of the caliphate, centering their attitudes, their intellectual energies, their political affiliations toward the caliphate. So this is where I think what we see in terms of the faces. Also in the Malay popular culture, you have this Malay theatre called Bangsawan. In the Bangsawan, this was 1800s, they also evoke the story of Istanbul. So in other words, the play of Bangsawan, sometimes it's called Wayang Istanbul, meaning Istanbul theatre. Istanbul is derived from the word Istanbul. So again, this is how, the problem level, the Malays revert the Ottomans. So this is how I would see this book. One, the archival, but I would expect that more works to be done and more reconstruction of the 700-year-long interaction between the Malays and the Malay archipelago and the Ottomans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting review, Prof. Let us move to the next reviewer, Professor Dr. Hafiz Zakaria from the Department of History and Civilization, Kuliah of Islamic Legal Knowledge and Human Sciences. You're welcome, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Being the last panelist is blessing as well as it's not a good thing also, right? Because you listen to people, which is nice, right? And whatever you want to say maybe has been covered, but you should not do that, right? So what I need to do is to improvise what has not been covered. First, let me mention, I agree with every panelist. From Murad, we were talking that if we get this book while we were reading, and the smell, we agree that it's nice, right? So the review would have been nicer, right? And this is a much welcome addition. But let us first look at historiography, this Ottoman study, Ottoman-Malay world relation in the context of historiography. Definitely, the relationship between the two worlds of Islam is long-standing, it's not new. But the studies of Malay world and Ottoman suffer from one major problem. What is the major problem? Because in the conventional scholarship that we have, what we have is actually the Ottoman studies, right? So to what extent the Malay world has been incorporated in the Ottoman study? Our our editor can tell us that basically in Ottoman study, which in itself is a huge field, right? So the Malay world is basically is marginalized. It's not important, right? In the context of foreign relations, right? Foreign relations, you have a lot of studies, Ottoman relation with many Arab world, because why? The Arab world was ruled by the Ottoman. And that's why there are a lot of writing on Ottoman relation with Egypt, how the Egyptian or how the Algerian would perceive the Ottoman. Are they the saviors or they are the colonizer, for example? These are the writing, for example, Ibn Iyas, right? When he wrote about the Ottoman arrival, right? These are the issue that has been covered in the Ottoman studies, right? Whereas Malay world definitely have interesting relationship, but not the same as the Arab world. So that's why in the context of Ottoman study, I think that the Malay world has been marginalized. So that's why the interest, that's why books like this will basically provide a spark, right? That in the Ottoman study, basically people like our editors are the dying breed, right? Because it's very difficult to find someone who study Ottoman study and at the same time try to incorporate Malay world studies, right? Because Ottoman study in itself is huge, and when we talk about research, we are not only referring to newspaper, we are going to use primary sources, right? Ottoman studies, you have to learn all the languages, not only the Ottoman, but all other related languages, right? So that you can consult the primary sources. Similarly, if you want to study Malay world, also is the same thing. You need to refer to the primary sources. So the first problem that we have is the marginalization of Malay world or Malay archipelago within the Ottoman study itself, right? You can go and check literature. Possibly out of many literature, there would be few, right? So that is one problem in the context of Ottoman study. And on the other hand, the brothers in the Malay archipelago, they also suffer from the same problem. There is so-called whatever study you want to call. Malay world studies or Southeast Asian studies also suffer from the same problem. People who study Southeast Asia, most of the time they will be studying on other things on Southeast Asia. But how many people really focus on the Malay archipelago? Very few, actually. If I remember correctly, one of the few is actually Anthony Reid, right? When he wrote an article on the impact of Turkish Revolution, that was, I don't remember, maybe 60s or 70s, right? And the impact of pan-Islamism, again, Reid, right? And what about others? Others will be doing other topics, right? Meaning that in the context of Southeast Asian study or Malay studies also, the issue of Malay relation with Ottoman also has not received adequate attention. So that's why if you look at literature, it is going to be quite difficult to find, substantial literature. So that's why the emergence of the spark of interest on this is really important, right? And I remember one of the few books that I read in the early 2000s on this topic, right? But at that point of time, the book is not really based, of course, the content is nice, that Malay world have a good relation, long-standing relation, but in terms of the research, do not utilize primary sources, but it is a good departure point, right? But at the same time, the project, like what I mentioned, our editors are involved. For example, the book later on that was published from Anatolia to Aceh. These are the contribution, right? So when people started to do research, so that's why this is a later development. We have Professor Ismail Haki Gotsoy, whose research actually, this is one of the example of someone who has studied basically your PhD thesis, you examine the Javanese, right? The Ottoman relation with the Javanese student, right? With Jawa, right? So this is one example. So out of many PhD theses, you see how many people in Turkey actually really study that, right? And similarly, how many people in this part of the world, Malay archipelago, did the same thing. By studying doesn't mean that you are only using translation. Of course, you can use translation, but if you don't consult the original, that is, the value is of lesser in terms of the significance. So that's why it's not my job here to praise YTB, but I have to praise YTB because YTB has actually made a lot of efforts to enhance this thing. Because how do we create people who could basically write instead of writing on different things, on Ottoman study, Malay world study, but writing an interdisciplinary Malay world and Ottoman relation. We need to produce scholars. Scholars who actually can read Bahasa. Not only read Bahasa that is modern, but to read in the archive. I think that in Malaysia, Prof. Murad also would agree, Prof. Aziz also agree that we have seen many Turkish students has been sponsored by YTB. And in fact, one of the contributors is Dr. Aladdin, did his PhD in IIUM, I think that sponsored by, I don't know, maybe YTB. And also we have Dr. Ahmad soon to be also sponsored by YTB doing his PhD at UM. And you know, this is a good initiative. And recently, Supervisor Professor Murad, Typhoon has graduated. So when they came here, they study things, Malaysian history, right? Then definitely they have to go to archive. They have to utilize the archive, right? That is how do we solve this problem. Because short-term, you know, stopgap measure is not going to solve this problem. The long-term solution, this is the effort that need to be done. And similarly on, what about the counterpart in the Malay archipelago? Has we done enough? Possibly we should follow the example of YTB. I believe that Malay archipelago also have a lot of resources. But you have to ask questions. We have sent students to Turkey, but what did they study? Maybe we send them to study medicine, majority, right? So we have to check the information. What about studying Ottoman history, right? How many has been sponsored? I think that some have been sponsored by Turkish institution. And also, Prof. Ismail Haqqi Qadi has mentioned also in this book that in the context of Sultan Abu Bakar, there is one student from Malaysia who has been sponsored by YTB to do her master's at Marmara University, as mentioned by Prof. Ismail, that Nur Amira, right? Nur Amira has been sponsored by YTB. I'm not here to praise YTB, right? If I say all other things, I think they has already been said, right? So meaning that this is the thing that need to be done in order to produce people who are really competent. Competent here doesn't mean that referring to translation. To be able, but you go and ask Amira. Amira has to consult the archive. And you have to learn the language, right? So meaning that the efforts, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, possibly we have done that, but definitely in order to enhance, strengthen to a new level, we need to have scholars who are well-trained, right? So I think that we really feel good about the Turkish students who are studying Malaysian history in Malaysia, and I think that they are going to contribute a lot in the development of relation between Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. Otherwise, we'll have old generation like me, like others, right? And the reason why we could write, because we have to work hard. But for these people, they have been trained. Similarly, on our part, in Malaysia also, that will be the way that is going to help us, right? So in terms of the book, I am amazed also, because when I look as a historian, when I look at the use of sources, the archive, the use of the archive, that is really amazing, right? And also, we have read previous work that have been published in terms of the coverage of the topic, right? A lot of studies previously maybe tend to focus on Aceh, right? The good thing is that maybe our editors realize, right? Of course, they love Aceh, right? They enjoy Aceh, but no Aceh here, right? So that is the good thing, right? Of course, we love Aceh, but the coverage. And also, our editor, also Prof. Ismail Gotswai, has discussed about Sheikhul Islam in the Philippines, right? Which is nice, because other people have written Sheikhul Islam in Batavia, Sheikhul Islam elsewhere, but now there is a coverage. So meaning that there are something that is interesting, new, even though you know, a project like this, you don't need to have something new because it is an edited work. But I think that based on what they have produced, it is something that we really like it very much, right? And what about criticism? Criticism, I agree with Prof. Murad, the notion of Southeast Asia, right? It is awkward, so that one has been discussed, so definitely, but there is minor issues. But at the same time, I think that an edited work suffers from one major problem, right? Even though there are many good things, but an edited work, especially the job of editor, when they have to edit work produced by different people. Normally, edited work is very difficult to have a coherent theme or a common argument, right? But it will be editor's job, and normally it's not easy. I would rather be my own author, right? And I know what I'm going to say, right? But that is always an issue with an edited work. So it is not a criticism. So maybe next stage is actually, I believe that there are a lot of sources there in Ankara, in Istanbul, and other places. So possibly a full monograph work later on, right? So this is a good start, but possibly in the future you can work on that, and then possibly some of the things that you have worked on, there is that possibility of basically going deep, right? And that will further add our understanding on this important subject. And so what I have to say from Murad, right? So we have praised YTB, right? So
give us the rating.
What? I think that the smell, right? I was talking to Prof. Murad, the smell itself, right? Oh, so this must be a really expensive book and really good, right? The quality of the paper, and in terms of the book, I think that it is going to receive really good reception from Malaysia, because Malaysia, as Prof. Murad mentioned, that they are interested in this type of work, right? And this one is different because why? Because it is solidly based on archival research, right? And I think that we can give the price, right? If you go to archive, how many hours you spend in the archive. So I think that this is really a good exemplary scholarship, and hopefully our editors can continue the effort to produce new generation who can continue the work to make this study of Ottoman and Malay world as something that is on a stronger platform. What we have right now is rather a fragile platform. The Ottomanists and the Malays, and then we have work like this. So that's why most of the time we have an edited work. Right? So with that, I thank everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalam. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have a question before we move to the ratings. Can we give 10 over 10? The quality of the book.
Quality of the book, from right.
Because I just received the copy, I noticed one thing. To strengthen the book, there must be an index. There's no index here. So again, that would answer your question.
Okay. 9 then. 9.5 per 10. We are good with the time. So we have a time for a question. Then I would like to open anybody on the audience. But first of all, I would like to start by inviting one of the authors for this work, for this book, is Professor Farid Al-Attas. He's going to say words for this. You're welcome, Prof.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, well, I'm not really prepared. Sort of ambush on your part. But listening to the presentations, I guess I have maybe a couple of things that I could say. The first is concerning Ottoman studies and Malay studies and the connections. Ottomanists studying the Malay world, and Malay studies scholars studying relations with Turkey. with the Ottoman Empire and with Turkey. As it was pointed out by the last presenter just now, there is sort of an imbalance, I think, because Turks are coming to Malaysia to do Malay Indonesian studies, and they are given scholarship by the Turkish government or by YTB. The reverse is not true. Most Malaysians who study in Turkey on scholarship are studying in the sciences, or I believe also medicine, engineering and so on, but very rarely humanities and social sciences. And part of the reason is because of our, Malaysian obsession with ranking. So if we're going to spend money to send our students to study abroad, we're going to send them to highly ranked universities, which are invariably American, British or Australian universities. So we have a problem with mentality. With regard to Turks coming to Malaysia to study on scholarship, to study in the social sciences, humanities, Malay studies, I think that is also going to come to an end. We have seen in the last less than 10 years, I've seen a nice group of Turkish students doing masters and PhD, working on Malaysia or on Indonesia. That number is dwindling. They are graduating, they're getting their PhDs, they're going back to Turkey, and their numbers are not being replenished. So I think our celebration about, the study of Ottoman-Malay world relations may be a bit premature. We have to work hard to make sure that this interest in terms of a younger generation continues. Can I just say one more thing? The idea of studying Ottoman-Malay world relations is very important, of course, and it should continue. And I congratulate the editors and the organization YTB for making this volume possible. But I would also like to say that to take the field further, we also need to consider not just relations, but parallels. Historical parallels between the Ottoman Empire and the Malay world, where we do comparisons, we do comparative studies, even when relations may be absent. For example, personally, I'm interested in the discourse about 100 years ago after the Russian Revolution, the discourse on the relations between Islam and socialism. There's been a lively discourse in the Malay world, in Indonesia particularly, and I understand also some of the young Turks were involved in debates or discussions on socialism. So this is something, an example of parallels and comparisons. The last point I want to mention is to take the discussions on history forward. The issue of historiography and theoretical history. Again, there are some interesting parallels and comparisons to be made between the Ottomans, between Ottoman history and Malay history. In the case of Ottoman history, you have, of course, the early 20th century to mid-20th century Orientalist approach to Ottoman history. The famous Bernard Lewis is an example. You also have homegrown Turkish scholars such as Halil İnalcık and Kemal Karpat. But then you also have the Turkish historians influenced by the Annal school, by Fernand Braudel, by Emmanuel Wallerstein, which resulted in a new school of thought in historical studies. And finally, in the Malay world, you had a lively debate in the 1940s and 1950s about the critique of Eurocentric history and the need for a more critical approach. There were lively debates in Indonesia as well as in Malaysia. And I think we have until now not discussed these critiques and these different schools of historical thought in the Ottoman, on the Ottoman Empire and the Malay world. Well, if anyone has any comments on or reactions to what I said, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Either you want to respond to that? Okay, we continue then. I'm sure the work that we have done here inspire a lot of young scholars who are sitting here. Maybe one or two here, they could continue further with the study. I would like to welcome anyone that have a question.
Assalamu alaikum. I noticed that some of the content in this book could be extension from this conference done in ISTAC in October, the 2-day conference on Ottoman and the Malay world, right? So some of the content seems to be extended from that. Okay, and then there was this, I think it was presentation by Dr. Said Alwi, and regarding the consulate in Batavia, 1839. And I think we did have a small talk also on the consulate in Singapore, which was opened earlier than the one in Batavia. My question is, do we have materials from the consulate, archive or anything, or probably even espionage notes, you know? Because I understand during that time, because the Ottoman was also involved in wars in Europe, and there was a lot of cry of help from the sultanates, the Malay sultanates, to the Ottomans regarding, you know, the British colonialism and also the Dutch colonialism. But yet, from that last conference, I understand that the Ottomans couldn't be seen to intervene directly. Yeah, but we also have stories about underground movements, that sort of thing, for the local resistance against colonialists. Perhaps the Ottomans were not directly involved, but I believe there's some sort of communication. Maybe it is in secret. Maybe
the secret cable, I think.
Yeah. So is there such records, probably from the consulates, which is maybe not open records, but somewhere, you know, probably correspondence, secret correspondence. I wonder if there is such a thing.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah, asking about the secret cable, is there anything like it? Like what we see in the British, they have the secret cable exchange between embassies here during those days.
The Ottoman consulates at that time used normal cable. I mean, this was the European infrastructure and their communication, and also the consul in Batavia or Jakarta, let's say it more correctly, corresponded not directly with Istanbul, but with The Hague, the Ottoman ambassador in The Hague, because the Ottoman consul in Jakarta was a subordinate of the Ottoman ambassador in The Hague. So he cabled through normal European infrastructure the ambassador in The Hague, and the ambassador in The Hague passed these information, or sometimes summarized, to Istanbul. Especially during the First World War, they began to use cheaper telegrams to conceal their correspondence, and Of course, this wasn't very much appreciated by European powers because they wanted to observe what was being cabled. So, in most cases, it is open correspondence through European sources. In the First World War, there were use of cheaper than telegrams.
Is it accessible? Is it accessible for researchers?
Yes. I mean, unfortunately, not much has been left over. I have published most of the available material in my two-volume book on sources. There is a high possibility that much more material of this kind will be discovered in the future. Let's see.
Thank you. Any more questions? Ladies and gentlemen, you may come to the mic for the question. You want to follow up with the next question? You're welcome, please. We still have some time now.
Okay, there was a time when I did some study because of family matters, reading the Perak Government Gazette and then the FMS, Federal Malay States Government Gazette. And I think it was sometime, probably in 1916 or something, during the First World War, when Turkey got involved after Germany. And I think there was Qadi of Shaykhul Islam in Turkey, which declares that whoever fought against the British, they die a martyr. And that edict, that fatwa, reached the shores of the Malay world. Yeah, such to the extent because we have also fighting over here. Maybe some have become subordinate, but they're still fighting, they're underground fighting and all that. And there's probably not much news. But I've read that the four sultans under the FMS, the Federal Malay States, starting with Perak, and then Selangor, Pahang, and then Sembilan. Starting with Perak, they have to make declaration. They declare, and it was written in the record, that whoever fought against the British are traitors to the Sultan. So I wonder if that sort of news, that sort of thing, is considered in the Ottoman studies. I mean, what is the reaction over there? Okay.
Thank you very much.
As far as I understand from the question that the jihad fatwa was issued by the Ottoman Sultan just Ottoman Empire entering into the First World War. It reached to Batavia Consulate, of course, because the Netherlands Dutch government was non-aligned. They did not enter the war. There was some communications between the Ottoman government and the Dutch government, not including the jihad fatwa for the Indonesian area. So later on, the Ottoman government issued a declaration that the jihad fatwa was not included Indonesian area. But the jihad fatwa was directed against the British and French territories, colonial territories. So this jihad fatwa was distributed secretly by the German authorities, German consulates in the Java area. And even the German consulate published discovered this operation, so they closed. They insisted on the Dutch government that printing house should be closed. So there was this kind of activities during the First World War. So maybe most of the jihad fatwa issues did not reach to Malay Sultanates in the northern area, only maybe in Johor Sultanate or also in the Singapore Sultanate. And even we have one official Ottoman document that saying that the Singapore Indian mutiny in Singapore in 1915, we have very few information that the jihad fatwa might have instigated the mutiny among the Indian soldiers as well. But usually in the Ottoman archives, we have documents coming through the normal ways, through the consulate offices. So considering for the secret documents, actually we do not have any archives in Istanbul. Recently, Turkish intelligence institution just released some of important documents in his new building in Ankara. But in the Ottoman period, we have Teşkilat-ı Mahsusa, but these institutions usually worked as a private. So, for instance, if someone connected with this institution came to this area and he collected information, he didn't write to the normal way. So they or he returned to Istanbul and informed the authorities orally. Maybe in that way, maybe they got the information as well. We propose in that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the final remark from me is the work in the path-breaking work that paved the way for more research, studies, and explorations. For that, join me in applauding the editors of the works and also the authors. And I wish you enjoy the work, and now I pass over to the MC.
We thank Dr. Ahmad and all the panelists for today for the wonderful discussion, and you may return to your seats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed with the souvenir presentations to honor the distinguished contributors and participants of this event. First presentation, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgood, Dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, to present a token of appreciation on behalf of his TAC IIUM to His Excellency Mr. Emir Salim Yüksel, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia. The second gift is from the Ambassador of Turkey, the Republic of Turkey to Malaysia, to Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgood. You may remain right there. Okay. Now, a token of appreciation to Mr. Murad Kazandi from YTB. And from YTB to ISTAC IIUM. And now we invite His Excellency Emir Salim Yüksel to present tokens of appreciation to the editors of studies on the relations between the Ottoman Empire and Southeast Asia. First, Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Qadi. Second is Professor Dr. Ismail Haqqi Goksoy. Our third discussant, Professor Dr. Phyllis Dirolu. Finally, we invite Mr. Murad Kazandi, Vice President of the Presidency for Turks Abroad and Related Communities, to present a token of appreciation to discussants Professor Dr. Ahmad Murad American, second, Professor Dr. Hafiz Zakaria. And lastly, Assistant Professor Dr. Ahmad El Muhammadi as moderator. We call upon everybody for a photo session. Please remain there, Dr. Ahmad. All the gift receivers, please come up for a photo session. Book reviewers, book presenters, discussers. Thank you very much. You may return to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, This concludes our book launching program. The Dean of ISAC IIUM and Management would like to express his appreciation to His Excellency Mr. Amir Salim Yüksel and YTB for facilitating this successful event. Refreshments will be served in the banquet hall for both VIPs and participants, and we will conclude with this event. For announcement, the book is also available online through the QR code on the poster outside of the hall on the pop-up backdrop. Thank you very much. We end the event with Tasbih Kifara Surat Al-Asr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.